you everyone for coming along this Sunday morning for this session. I'll first just introduce Act for Goa and then tell you a little bit about the discussion today. So Act for Goa was sort of kicked off about 7 years ago. It involved discussions and dialogue, very much stimulated by the sort of state of Goa today and a sense of change and a sense of loss, but also a sense of possibility and the potential of amazing civic society in Goa, but also artists, writers and others. So this idea of the possibility of doing of real positive change underlies what we do in Act for Goa. So why talk about spirituality, art and ecology? It may seem really obvious to you, but to me, since I've come back to Goa, so I came back to Goa last year, it's become so evident to me that there are these sort of powerful sort of traditions, values, rituals in India and in Goa. Goa has its own maybe distinct set of deities, rituals, traditions, which put nature at the centre of things. Ecology is just so important, and it's not just part of Hinduism, but of all religions once you start looking at the stories, the creation stories of all these different traditions. So what we are doing today is we've got an amazing set of speakers and panellists. So we'll be beginning with Dr Rajendra Kerkar, who's an eminent ecologist and has written books and articles and received many awards. And he will be telling us about these traditions, these deities, these rituals of Goa. And then we'll be moving into the art and the other sort of element of what to me is also a form of spiritualism. It's also connecting and communicating to people, to people's hearts and souls, and helping us interpret this world that we're sort of living in. So we have a tradition, I should say, I think it's a tradition, but it's definitely very strong at the moment, of what is visual but also interactive, participatory art. So I'm pleased to have Miriam Koji-Sakija here, who will be telling us about her work in this field, and she's been involved in campaigns like the Marde River campaign, and I was pleased to be at an event last year along the river where people formed a line along the river, and it was beautiful. There was a strong connection with nature, the water. We all know how important rivers and water are in India. Marde, which means, I think it means the great mother. It seems to mean a number of different things, but that respect for the earth and the water was coming out in through this form of interactive art. So Miriam will tell us about this. And then we also have Wayland D'Souza here, who is an artist who confronts some of these challenges that we are now facing quite directly in his art. So he'll tell us about what he's been doing and how he's moved into also working on permaculture, where he's much more directly involved in the land. And we have Father Valeriano here, who will tell us a little bit about all those other sort of traditions and how, in particular, what has been done in practical terms, so that he's the rector of the Seminary up here in Valeriano that has been taking action on water management, on managing rainwater and groundwater, so very directly involved in protecting and safeguarding these natural assets that we value so much. So that's what we're going to be covering today, and we hope to make it interactive, so in the end there'll be plenty of time for questions and discussion. So now I'm going to invite Dr Rajendra Kerkar to begin and give us a presentation.
सृष्टि से पहले सत नहीं था, असत भी नहीं था, अंतरिक्ष भी नहीं था, क्या छिपा था उस अगनतल जल भी कहा था. We all are aware that there was nothing abstract, and you know, the life begin with the emerging of the water on the earth. And after, you can see vegetation, you can see huge river, and then human being inspired after seeing the greenery, algae, and the life begin on the earth. In India or in Goa, you can see the people consider nature as a god, and there are various elements present in the nature they are worshipping. My first slide takes you to Lord Ganesh. Actually, he is the son of the Parvati. Parvati actually the goddess representing Mother Earth, and in Goa we have the tradition earlier of making idol from the clay, and it is the respect for the clay, not for anything. And here in Goa you can see the goddess called Kebai, Gajalakshmi, and this Gajalakshmi takes you to the very ancient period. Goa was ruled by different dynasties like Abhir, Triputak, Batpura, Kalchuri, Konkan Maurya, Badami Chalukyas, and here downward you can see symbol of the royal emblem of the Kadamba is engraved on this Gajalakshmi. So Gajalakshmi is the deity of Jal. You can see elephant represent a cloud, and this is the actually representation of the southwest monsoon wind. And in Karnataka or in Bhopal, if you go to Sanchi, you can see this is worshipped among the Buddhism as the mother of the Gautam Buddha, whereas in Goa she is considered as the mother earth. So all elements, Jal, Jungle, Zamin, three elements necessary for human beings are there in the deity. And when religion was not there, who were there? There were the prehistoric men, and they were living on the bank of the river. You know, the river is the cradle of civilization. And in Maushi, for example, in Sattari Taluka, you can see the basalt stones were used to engrave the carving, and the animal that was there inside the forest called bull with the horn attracted human being, and he afterward domesticated it, and you know, it was the beginning of the agriculture. Agriculture is the discovery of the woman. And in Goa, if you visit the Maushi, 3 kilometers from Valpai, if you go to Sange Taluka, there is Ponsamoy near to Rivan, and then if you go to Keping, you can see Kauri is the village where you can see the carvings are there. So on the left right side you can see the peacock is there. Peacock, you know, also fascinated human being. Right from the Mughal who entered India, Babur was very much fascinated to see the first time in the life you were seeing the peacock. And you know, the Alexander the Great also was fascinated to see the peacock, and how you can exclude the prehistoric man. The prehistoric man used the stone tools and engraved the peacock on the laterite bed in Ponsai mold. So this is on the bank of the Kushavati. Pupils are there. Then the Dhiryo, for example, Ben. But you know, the prehistoric man was fascinated to see the Dhiryo, and that is engraved on the stone, basalt. Sacred groves, you know, the institutions which is there in Goa, and here you will find 6 persons encircling one huge tall towering tree. Then you can see the Baragan concept is there, where you can see on the bank of the Dulsagar river, the sacred grove is there. The Pendamus, for example, protected in the sacred grove of near to Alpa in the Kopade. Ganpati, for example, people were using different media to make the Ganpati. So here you can see the seeds of the wild tree, and then the wooden canopy over the head of the Ganpati decorated with the all seasonal flowers that are available during the month. And downward you can see the decoration, pseudo stem of banana used. So important of this decoration is that after removing it, you can cook it and directly eat the vegetable of the pseudo stem of banana, gabe, and that is another decoration. So the pinnacle of the paddy, you know, human being fascinated with rice, and rice came to Goa right from Assam. Rice was not grown in Goa because Goa was the land of the millet, and people who migrated from the northeast part of India, they brought the rice, different variety of rice. Mangoes, for example, mango was not there in Goa, and the Goan, in order to express their gratitude to the mother nature, tied during the Ganesh Chaturthi or the Dasara festival, the pinnacle of the paddy, and different elements of the nature. Here you will find the snake cobra, the venom of the snake. You will find the twinkling star worshipped by the people, and the Madananta temple in Savoy. Inside the tent you can see the Lord Sheshashai Bhagwan is there. This is Gandha Puja. So all this tells you that the nature is very supreme. Who after conversion, the Christianity could not also move away from the element of the nature worship. This is the Saint Anne. Actually it is the Santan. Santan means the child blessing Our Lady. And if you go to this Talauli in Tiswadi Taluka, people still worship the Santan Devi as a Saint Anne, and in front of the Saint Anne they will stand and request blesses the male child. And it is believed that you can see the Hindu couple bringing the Kakumba. Daushaji fest is celebrated in the month of August. And here you can see the same month, more or less same month, you can see the Baros is celebrated. It is the beginning of the new autumn agriculture season, and here element that made from the kneaded flour are tortoise. The tortoise keep the water clean, then they will make the pair of the bulls from the kneaded. So all this is the respect for the nature. And just as India is the land where you can see the people very using different element of the nature for painting. If you go to Bhimbetka, the same color you will find. And in the temple of the Goa, people were using the cow, locally available red pigment in the soil for the temple, and for 300 years the color remained intact. So today we are attracted by attractive color. And this color could not last for even for 1 year, because Goa is a land where humidity is a big problem. And this is the 300-year-old temple which was there in Adwalpal of Bicholim Taluka, wherein Shankar Chakra Gada Padma Sri Vishnu, then you can see the ape god Hanuman, then you can see the lion, and so many things. So this is just like Varli of Maharashtra, Kavi art was there in Goa. Now it is totally on the verge of extinction. The tribal community, you can see the grandstone they are using and singing the Ovyo, Are Gharota Gharota Tuja Tona Gale Piti Tasa Tasa Gana Maja Ye Oti. So here you will find the Gauda community, Katiobai, Katioge, Akashi Mudyalo. You can see the twinkling star inspired them, and around the Tulsi Vrindavan they are performing. Kunbi community, they are called the Christian Gauda today. They also continued with the Dhalo festival. And here you will find the pastoral community, Khadakacha Pani, Dongarcha Pala, De Dada, De Rajala Masade. So they believe that the buffaloes plays very significant role in their life, and that is why all the dances they are performing related with the buffalo. And we have the Dhalo tradition, eco-feministic festival of Goa, wherein the woman community sing the song about the trees, about the nature. So this is from the kneaded flour. They make the Mahalakshmi among the Chitpavan Brahmins. So among Navdarga in Gori, she is a representation of the Mahishasura Mardini, and the sacred preacher made from the clay, and then the Dasara festival. So all, and then you have the Nathapati who visit each and every house in the villages and see Paure Siddha got it. So they also responsible for protecting nature and environment. And the Jainism is the first world religion that focus attention on the environmental aspect. But today, because of the corona, we are familiar with the using of the mask, but the first religion in the world to use the mask before the birth of the Jesus 500 years ago was the Jainism. And you can see the Pashwana with the 7-hooded cobra. So this is what you can see, 24 Tirthankaras. This was found in the Sankwal village, that was found in the Narve village, and that is one of the beautiful temple of the Jain in Kudne. This is from the Korgaon Padnim. So Jainism is very important religion that plays significant role in protection of the environment, ecology, because it banned hunting. And here you will find how the Muslim religion in Goa, this is the property belonging to the Hindu temple Siddheshwar, the presiding deity, and owned by the temple, and here the place has been offered to the Pir, the pious saint in Islam. Sufism was responsible for bringing both the community Hindu and Muslim together. So here you can see the nearby water has a salty water, and in front of the masjid you can see the water is crystal clear, you can drink it. Earlier it was very nice water. So this is in Sakri, and this is the only Mughal structure existing in Bicholi that was built by son of the Aurangzeb, Akbar II. And among the Christianity, they converted to the new religion, but the old tradition you will find upon such a fast. And this is patron saint of the Ecology in the Christianity. And you know, the ant hill in Goa is worshipped as a satyr, and the satyr was transferred from the Kiroshi village of the Marma Goa to Kavali of Punda, and you can see the Shantadurga deity got it, no? And Shantadurga, now these all idols, 5 idols of the gold. On the occasion of Diwali, you will find all these 5 idols are displayed. Sikotar Mata, you know, from Yemen, in Arabian country, we have the Sikotar Mata, and there is one island called Socotra Island. And it is said that the Socotra, from the deity that was worshipped by the Gujarati merchant, he brought it in Gujarat, and that is why in the birthplace of the Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of India, Vadnagar, you will find the temple of the Sikotar Mata. So who is this Sikotar Mata? There is need to peep into Sikotar Mata's root. But in Goa you can see I got 13 sculpture inside the jungle on the bank of the river, wherein the Mahishasur Mardini, or the mother goddess, made to sit inside the country canal. Why? What is the reason? So there is need to do the study in detail. So this is, you know, the unique tradition that we can see. And what, you know, why people worship tiger. Tiger is the apex in the food chain. And here you in Goa, you will find more than 50 temples dedicated to the tiger god. So tribal people protected the forest called Wagre Gal, the sacred grove dedicated to the tiger god. So this tradition is there in Goa, and this is my last slide, which takes you to the spiritualism, art and culture. All this evolved from the nature, and nature is very supreme. And in Goa, if we want to protect the Goa for the posterity, if we want our Madai river, you know, the word Madai is related with the great mother. So this why the people consider this is the great mother. You can see the 13 sculptures are there, made to sit into boat, and she is projected as a Tarini, the savior. So if you protect the river will going to save us. There is a tradition of the trees, considering it is the representation of the Rakhonda, got it, no? The Holy Spirit, unseen spirit, and till this date, the huge banyan trees, peepal trees, and different type of the trees having the medicinal values are protected by the people in the name of the unseen Holy Spirit. This is a religion, you know, that was having no connection with whatever you can see the book or the religion based on the sacred books. This is the religion that is based on the principle of the element of the nature. The Pandavas, for example, has no connection with the in the Mahabharata with the, you know, we call them as the Dharma or the Bhim. So all these Pandavas represent the Pancha Mahabhutas. If you go to the tribal and ask them who were the Pandavas, they will tell you that they all were the Pancha Mahabhutas. And for all of us, Pancha Mahabhutas are important. You cannot live without the light, without the water. So everything is important, and the spiritualism always urge that we have to protect. For example, when the Mahadev rises in the jungle of the Western Ghat, it enters Goa at a place called Krishnapur, Pistachipur, where you will find the massive fish, huge size of the fish. People never dare to kill them because they say that this all belong to the guardian spirit and protect it. All these species, no one dare to enter into this water body for fishing purpose, using explosive, everything is banned. So because of the eco-spirituality, the religion which was emphasized by our forefather, all this is protected. But today, you know, the element of transition, elements of the we want more wealth. You know, Alexander Pope, when he was 10-year-old, written a poem on money. So we want money, we want prestige, we want happiness, and that is why we are killing trees, destroying Mother Nature, poaching animals. So let us look into this religion which was protecting all this wealth. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kerkar. Yeah, I think we've really got a good idea of all that sort of complexity of the earlier and current religions, because people still practice these traditions. We still have Satheri temples, we still have a lot of these other deities which are part of life in Goa. And when we get to the end of the discussion, I'd like to talk a bit more about how we can maybe revive more of that sort of respect, the eco-spirituality that you talk about. But also you brought out that sort of syncretic nature of religion in Goa, and how different religions have sort of, how religion has sort of evolved, and Christianity's taken on board some of the earlier religions, how Islam and Hinduism, the particular site you showed where the institutions sort of work together in effect. So we'll come back to all of that. But now what I'd like to do is move on to Miriam Koshi-Sukija, who will tell us more about her work and bring out some of these ideas also that you talked about around maybe the Made River, which is such an important part of what is going on in Goa at the moment. So now, welcome Miriam.
Hi, I'm Miriam Koshi. I work at the intersection of ecology, art, spirituality, community engagement, and activism. Some might categorize my work as environmental art, land art, or even public art. But I think at the heart of it, it is spiritual, eco-spiritual art. My works are mostly made in situ, that is on site. They're ephemeral, they're meant to go back to the earth. And the intention of the work is to bring people together, to reconnect them to the ecosystem and foster a sense of solidarity and kinship between the human and the more than human. In doing so, together, we are able to address the ecological grief that each of us experiences, either consciously or subconsciously. I draw from mythology, folklore, and ritualistic and spiritual practices from Goa and from ancient traditions across the world. I work across disciplines: sculpture, assemblages, installations, poetry, performance, photography, and films, to create a sacred container for people to gather, witness, and meditate on what's happening in the environment and in ourselves, and through that perhaps to forge a means to address what is affecting us. The mandala in Buddhist rituals is a tool of meditation and an act of healing. It's a transformational archetype, deeply embedded in our collective unconscious. It is a sacred map pointing us back to our center and our wholeness. Its integrated, interconnected patterns activate energy fields that bring us back into our original state of unity and sacredness with Earth and the cosmos. Because in my work, I'm often drawn to the practice of the mandala as a sacred container for century, I thought I would share a reflection on my practice and work through this mandala. Calling. For me, the process starts with a calling, a quiet voice that draws me into a state of presence and attention, meditation and devotion. I feel guided and channeled as I begin to work intuitively in flow and watch as the intention unveils itself. Kinship. To draw strength and resources for the task, I dive into the mythology and folklore and watch as my kin begin to embody themselves, be it the arboreal Saptamatrika or the Madhuje Rakondar, who I will be introducing you to soon. Rituals. What follows are then rituals to consecrate my kin for the task at hand. Rituals of honoring, of mourning, and of healing. And in this, and for this, I use certain symbolic material in the preparation of the site. I seek metaphoric materials of healing like turmeric, rice, river stones, prayer flags made of gauze, and a tambri mati. A central thought that holds me is, what is the legacy that we are creating as future ancestors for the generations to come? How can I address this collective blind spot of intergenerational environmental amnesia, which is affecting our evolutionary psychology as a species, leaving us disconnected from ourselves, others, and the earth we belong to? Now, I see this as something that can be only done together as a community. And this is why I'm always led time and time again to weave the threads of collaboration and kinship, of reconnecting, feeling together, integrating, and working with the human and more than human. And it was in the spirit of this endeavor that the Earthless Collective was born, which I will speak more of when we look at the work that birthed it. My work and the materials that I use are ephemeral, just like nature. They go back to dust. In Buddhist traditions, once the mandala is made and consecrated, it is swept away. It no longer exists in this dimension because in the making of it, we integrate it into our psyche. And this transformational energy created in the mandala is then channeled through us into the world, through our recentered way of being. It returns us to a place of awe and wonder and peace and connectedness as we come together to face and change what we are facing with positive and constructive agency. Now that we've explored the mandala of my process, I'd like to briefly introduce you to 3 of my works that have come out of this practice. This work was called Matrika, Recentering to the Core. This was made in 2021 in response to the 3 infrastructure projects which threatened to cut across and affect the Mole National Park and the Bhagwan Mahavir Sanctuary. These forests are part of the Western Ghats, which are over 150 million years old, making them older than even the Himalayas. This work was a consecration ritual for the arboreal Saptamatrika that quite literally assembled themselves from the crude branches of our beloved mango tree, which we replanted after the Tauktuke cyclone uprooted her. For me, the Saptamatrika are the 7 sisters that our mango tree fleshed out of her being as guardians of the forest. References to the Saptamatrika or the 7 mother goddesses originally believed to be the personification of the 7 stars of the star cluster of the Pleiades, can be found as far back as the Indus Valley civilization. There are several origin stories, including the battlefield described in the Devi Mahatmya, that describes goddess Durga's victory over evil with the help of the Saptamatrika, or the 7 mothers. These were said to be the Shakti form of the gods, sent to help Durga in her battle against the Rakta Beach, the Asura who would not be vanquished, because every time he was slain, the blood he spilled would multiply his very being. And now that about sounds familiar to the situation that we find ourselves with the onslaught of ecological damage that we are facing. Now this brings me to the second work that I'd like to talk about, Mangrove Encircling the Loss. This came together in early 22 as a public art and community sensitization project addressing the mangrove destruction along the Panjim-Pambali highway. Mangroves and Kazan's lands are vital ecosystems, protecting our coasts, preventing erosion, and supporting biodiversity. However, rapid land use changes have led to their destruction, increasing flooding risks which are accelerated by climate change. Effective action on human-caused climate change requires more than scientific facts. We are moved to act by stories, by poetry, by art and music, and by a retelling of our own personal experiences of a rapidly changing climate. This impetus led to the organic birthing of the Earthwist Collective, which is a coming together of concerned citizens, artists, architects, musicians, performers, filmmakers, and journalists who seek to work at the intersection of citizen science, preservation, awareness, and art, with the intention of going beyond building awareness to create an emotional connection to the fragile ecosystems which are under threat, setting grounds for positive action for their preservation. So our first intervention was a spiral installation of prayer flags made of gauze in Merces in Goa, where a vast tract of mangroves had been systemically destroyed. The public art installation with the walkway, the central spiral, and the machan was an invitation to pause, to enter, to witness, to experience, and engage with the site, to gather, to meet, to talk, and to perform, and to add to the much-needed collective healing. To activate the site, we had several rituals, performances, songs, and drumming, all as an act of mourning and as a prayer for healing and renewal. Through the several community engagement activities that preceded and followed this was born the Kazan Society of Goa, which aims to preserve and promote Goa's unique Kazan heritage ecosystems through conducting research and ecological monitoring, identifying threats to biodiversity and livelihoods, and creating sustainable solutions. The Society collaborates with stakeholders to enhance conservation policies and supports resource building, green skills training, and public awareness efforts. Additionally, it offers forums for discussion, aid to local Kazan organizations, and prioritizes actions addressing environmental and climate risks impacting these ecosystems. Now, for the third work that I'd like to share with you, the Madhaiche Rakunda. The impetus for this work came as a response to the shock waves and immediate urgency that the Centre's approval of a modified detailed project report of the Khalsa Bandura Canal brought on us mid-2022 onwards. This diversion of the headwaters of the Madhai would have been devastating in the long run for Goa. Rakondars are guardian spirits in Goa that are believed to protect villages, fields, and crossroads, and this time I turned to them. What followed was a series made as an offering to the river Madhai, following her flow not only into and through Goa, but through each one of us We are, after all, 70% water, and the riverine ecosystem from source to mouth, spanning waterfalls, forests, mangroves, Kazan lands, and the estuary, came to be embodied in these 7 Rakondars or guardian spirits that are interconnected in a delicate balance that we as Madhe's children need to safeguard from disruption. In the onslaught of the new unrelenting news that followed, I prayed for a multiplication of these Rakondar, an army of Rakondars to protect our Mai, standing in solidarity with her and honoring her. What followed was rolling out of an entire festival to honor her, entitled Madhuri Amchi Mai. Leading up to the festival, and as part of it, we had several walks by passionate experts along the banks of the river to get to know the plants and the trees and the birds that she nourished. On the day, musicians and dancers, artists and theatre groups, jazz and brass bands, and several groups of children gathered along the river, painting and sketching and singing, and forming a human chain along her estuary at the Miramar beach. In the days that followed, this got amplified by several articles in the press and informative videos speaking about the implications of the diversion. People were charged and ready to push back. So I'd like to conclude by saying that spiritual ecology tells us a different story of the earth. It allows us to recognize that our reverence for the sentience and the sacredness of the earth is the basis for the mutual flourishing of humans and more than humans. It raises our awareness of how our species is a part of a greater ecosystem, at par with other species, not raised at a level above them. We are part of nature, not apart from it. So we need to shift our mindset from looking at nature as a source to the ultimate, as a resource to the ultimate source. Thank you.
A very beautiful, powerful presentation. I did wonder when I put this whole thing together, bringing art and spirituality into one event, and I wondered whether it was really going to work. But in fact, you showed how very intertwined, your art and other people's art, I'm sure as well, but your art in particular relates to spirituality. I liked your mandala approach, and I was particularly struck by what you said about just the process of making the art, embedding a particular view into one's psyche. And I suspect that in some ways that's what traditional ritual was doing as well. So when people performed, whether it's dance or music or whatever they're making, in effect they were embedding this sort of idea into their psyche. So thank you. We'll get back to the discussion in a little while. I'm now going to invite our third panellist, Wayland D'Souza, to present on his art. Perhaps I'll explain what Wayland does. He's a transdisciplinary artist and designer with research-driven practice, collating principles of education, philosophy and culture to iterate pan-disciplinary experiments in sustainability science. It always sounds very complicated when you get things written by artists, but I'm sure everybody knows and will know what you do in a very short while. So over to you now.
To keep it simple, my work revolves around water and earth predominantly. And so I'll just run you through some of my earlier works. So this was starting off with the foundations of the state, Goa. So I kind of looked at the humpback dolphin, which I learned over those years as the poster child of, I like signifying that as the poster child of Goa. And I was, so the exhibit, the theme was azulejos, the Islamic, Iberian, Portuguese styles. And I was like, how do I reinvent it? Because we see a lot of floral and fauna motifs in these kind of earlier tiles. But as I see the landscape changing around me, I see more of like construction trusses and destruction of like the mangroves, the highway coming through. This was back in 2019, 20. And so then I converted all those images which I shot from like north to south Goa into these tiles, which as you can see there, if you notice, it's a Flipkart bag on the sand, which I've converted into kaleidoscopic tile. So at the end of my journey, my photo documentation, I found this vertebrae, the whole skeleton of the humpback dolphin. So I'm using the tiles to signify as if it's cutting the state, like the state's vertebrae, in the same way like the dolphin was found, like the skeleton, probably because of development itself. And then so here I'm looking at the country as a whole. So inspired from, this is a Ganga Mandala. So looking into India's past, present and future, I was looking how India crashed into Eurasia and the Himalayas, the third pole of the world, was born. And from that, the birth of civilizations, and how rivers are like the arteries of our land. And by damming of rivers and maritime capitalism, we are literally cutting off our goddesses' arms and killing off her vahana. And then below you'll see like industrial agriculture, which is causing algal blooms in the oceans and in the rivers. So kind of showing consumerism, our transition from time, just trying to encapsulate everything into a mandala. Then I'm looking at global waters. So for this exhibit, I kind of got whale recordings, sperm whale recordings and humpback whale recordings from scientists in Alaska, and then plankton footage from some scientists in Austria, and I was looking at plastic, what is synthetic, what is real in terms of plastic, you know. And then I took, it was also sound installation, so I took seismic blasts from ships and took the whale recordings, and my father, who was a sailor, his distress signal when he had to jump off ship, and created this gong out of the ship metal, and the sperm whale codars, you know, which were cut out in that. And then there was video projection and the sound installation. So questioning again, like the whole cycle, like, you know, from what we know, plankton and whales, like back in the day, like dinosaurs, like are the reason why we have petroleum now. And we're kind of disrupting their, what you could say, ecosystems in the pursuit. So it's this constant echo chamber. Then recently, in December 2023, I got like some 35 different people, ceramic artists, textile artists, macrame artists, glass artists. We worked on some upcycle installations in our studio also, from Goa and different parts of India, to create a coral reef, and the theme was blue carbon and how coral reefs sequester carbon, you know, and pollution. And we use the same elements like calcium and carbon and silica to create their metropolises, which support so many different species. And we use the same materials ironically, but we create destruction in our wake. And here I was looking at the changing landscape of India, predominantly the south. So again, there was a lot of mythology and history here. So which I created into a form of a timeline in the form of a sari, where I was working with the French Institute, which has an Indology department, which has like some 8,000 manuscripts in different languages. and I moved from old mythology to like the Chola dynasty, the Vijayanagara dynasty, the main queens of those periods, and in all the symbols across the sari. And then I was looking at the dance between the Arabs and the Portuguese in terms of maritime trade in the colonial period, and to the present day of the Pallu, which is on that side, which showcases the oil palm, since India is planning to clear out 28 lakh hectares of land, which is predominantly forest land, to grow oil palms. So that's the kind of future I'm showing, like again the present, the past, the present, and the future of India. So it was again an educative experience for people from all age groups, like from kids and school kids. And then coming back to Goa, as Rajendra mentioned, like for another exhibit, I was inspired from the Santeri Mother Goddess, which I read about more, and so then again looking at termites as a social creature which dig up different things from the earth, and they are the interface organisms between life and death, because they recycle material in nature and create soil out of it. So similarly, we humans do the same. We mine out petroleum, metals, and create our cities just like they do. And that's why I created this installation with a kind of a rangoli which has iron ore and soil and compost. And the main structure again was made out of waste plastic. So I like to use a lot of recycled, like upcycled materials. And this was along with another artist who was showcasing the 7 other goddesses of Goa. And so coming back to like all my, from all my journeys, I was quite inspired by spending time in all the natural spaces in Goa, from its waterways to its forest. So I was like, how do I, from a state of lamenting and creating awareness and activism, how do we actually create solutions? So parallelly, there was a journey which I was trying to create solutions, and one of them is like creating home. Everyone wants to create a home. So it's like, how can I take the old and the new and create a home? So embracing development and technology, how can we have like a home which, as you walk in, you have your vegetables growing there. You might have a water reservoir or pool, which is a natural pool, which kind of is filtered by plants itself, and it could even grow your own food. And instead of using just ornamental plants, we could use a lot of native plants and trees. So I've used the targola here, and kokum trees, and banana, and tambibaji there, the insulin plant. And if you could see, instead of having fences of like boundary walls of concrete, you can have walls of, as you can see there, like there's passion fruit, lupa, karela. And so this is what it looks like. So you have like avenues of tengli and karela and passion fruit. You have indigenous flowers for the native bees and butterflies. And I also mix it up with ornamentals also from out of demand. And then growing a lot of food produced in your urban spaces. And I feel that as we keep growing in numbers, we are literally peeling off the skin of the earth, which is soil. So I'm like, if we are doing that, why not restore it by even creating our roofs and homes into like gardens and which produce your food and also support other biodiversity in the area. So as you can see on second floor terraces, it's like there's pineapples and lemongrass and lime, and in some cases dragon fruit and many other veggies. And then I also create like a mix of, as I mentioned earlier, like ornamental and native plants for not just us, for local species and all our other, what you could say, pollinators, yeah, friends which, kind of support us. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, William. That's excellent. I really like the way that you actually do confront these challenges that we're facing very directly and don't sort of shy away from them in your art. So the work that you did on the coral reefs and sequestering carbon, but also looking at the past and the future as well, and how you looked at how we can live and design houses and make our sort of houses almost maybe, I was going to say subservient to nature, but trees all were bigger, I noticed, and almost more important in the whole sort of context of the houses. So thanks, and I'm now going to invite Father Valerian to join us, and we're going to have a discussion. So if you'd like to come up and join us on the podium, the steps are over there. The steps are on that side over there.
Not too crowded.
Oh, not too crowded. Okay.
It's all right. Not too crowded. It's all right.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Okay. So the first question in. You can sit here if you like, but it's up to you. So the first sort of thought in my mind is whether we do have in Goa this sort of thread running through culture, I suppose, people's sort of thinking, practice, which is very much about nature and ecology. And I wonder whether, Father Valerian, you'd like to comment on that and perhaps tell us a little bit about what you've been doing. Yeah, we do have another microphone. Yeah. Okay, great. And then we'll come to some questions from the audience in a minute.
Okay, as you must have figured out, all the three speakers concentrated on one main thought of unity. All of them, the three of them, finally ends up into unifying the whole universe. Whether it is in art or in religious practices, traditions, the focus I was listening ended up in unifying. And I think spirituality is precisely that, unifying the whole the universe. In the Hindu tradition, especially, there is a Mahavakya which says, Tattvamasi, that thou art. One of the main teachings of Hinduism is that the whole universe is one. We see the same concept also in the scientific strain where we speak about the Big Bang theory, and the Big Bang theory as well speaks about the one. Everything evolves from one. In various religious traditions, various teachings, we also have the same teaching of unity. God as the unifying source. And so, whether it is in art, whether it is in ecology, whether it is in our day-to-day life, the more we realize the oneness, the unity amongst us and within the creation, there is peace and joy. That is what spirituality is all about.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think that's an idea of unity of people and nature. Would anybody else like to comment on whether you think there is this pervasive theme in Goa which is about nature and ecology? What do you think, Dr. Kerkar? Do you think this is part of modern day Goa to have this respect, or is it something that we had in the past but has sort of disappeared now?
lot of transformation taking place, and forces of destructions are very strong. If we could not transform the forested area into wildlife sanctuary, it would be very difficult for us to protect whatever left patches that are providing us water, oxygen. So, a very sorry state. You can see one side, you can see huge development taking place, and another side you have tiger population, sloth bear population, all struggling for their survival. So, very sorry state is there.
Okay, okay. Not a very positive image at the moment. So, in fact, I'd like to ask, well, let me open up to the audience and we'll go back to our questions. Let's see if anyone else has a question for the panelists. Would you like a mic? Yeah, okay, there's a lady over there.
Thank you all for such beautiful inputs and insights. I have a slightly depressing question. I mean, your responses as artists are really, really important, but they're also soft responses, you know, to something that's very hard and harsh and overwhelming, the kind of development that's going on, the kind of destruction that's going on. So I mean, how do we take this forward? How can art and awareness, the way that you all are doing it, actually stand up to the kind of destruction that we're seeing right now?
Okay, who would like to comment on this? Marina?
It brings about a start, it brings about a change in also accountability in terms of the government. So when we had the installation at Nurses, that did follow by a lot of activity in social media with questions being thrown at the forest minister. And he did come there and he spoke about how this destruction must be stopped. And in the days that followed, there was the opening of the water channels. And of course, it's a long process. It's something that doesn't happen overnight. But we do see that the channels have been opened, the water has been let through. And when the intention of let's say, killing those mangroves was to fill up that space and to create a Goa heart over there. So that has been stalled because there is now a committee in place to see how that particular patch of mangroves can be restored. So maybe we don't see immediate actions, but they do come forth in ripples slowly. But slow is the key word here.
Anyone else would like to comment?
Almost the same thing, like we have to have from art and activism running parallelly, we need to also have action. So, and people from different segments have to get together to address this rather than it just in small circles and echo chambers. We're preaching to the choir all the time. So I feel art that kind of transcends the boundaries of a white cube gallery space, if supported well, and even in terms of, as we were discussing, policy making and decision makers and planning, urban planning, if it could be done all together in a round table, then I think it's a start. It's going to be slow, but it's like we need to start as soon as possible, I think.
So actually bringing, we've got a couple of other questions in a minute, but bringing art into the urban planning process. So even say even at a panchayat level, would you try and take art into that sort of process?
Yeah, so I try to make my art also quite educative instead of just abstract, so that it could be used as a tool to discuss with all these different stakeholders. Like sometimes I take the mandala and describe the history and geography of India to kids, and then to fisher folks on the coast. So I feel it could be used in that medium to kind of, and there's so many other ways art could be used, like from illustrative infographics to then also design, showcasing design solutions, instead of just complaining about the problem and just attacking the, other side.
Yeah, because art really does allow you to envision, doesn't it, to see another future. We've got two more questions. I think it's the lady in the front row, and then it was Jack, and then the lady in the back row.
Hi, good morning. I just want to first commend the artists here. Fabulous interpretation of the problems that we see and trying to connect the emotional and the visual for a solution. That was amazing. My question is to Dr. Rajendra. I've seen so much of positive impact of his work in the past, ecologically, and I've heard so much of his community approach. I would like to ask the doctor to just explain to us how you managed to get your community so involved, and they are actually living the process of trying to save the forest and connecting with it spiritually. And I have seen that in person, so if you could enlighten us how you managed to get the community so involved with the works that happen.
Community will involve in the protection of any forest tree only when you see that it is associated with the god. I have very beautiful example in Mandur, wherein the one holy cross is under the banyan tree. So everywhere you will find the development is going rampantly, but this tree people believe is of the Holy Spirit. So there the holy cross has been installed. The same thing if you go to Karanjol, in Karanjol people started clearing the hill. But when I met them and told them that your forefather protected 27 acres of the land in the name of the sacred grove, Oyechi Rai. So this Oyechi Rai remain intact. Or you can see, you come to my place in Keri, wherein you will find 10 acres of the land kept intact by the people because they believe that it is the abode of the Holy Spirit, the Rakhandar called Ajoba. So no one dare to go there, even Muslim who are living, they also believe that the Rakhandar guard the whole village. So everywhere outside the sacred grove, you can see trees are felled, people are bringing the more and more area under agriculture or under construction. But when you connect them with the spirituality, with the nature, with the ecology, this is protected. For example, I have shown you the pistachio cone, where you can see the size of a human being, the mercy fish. No one dare to kill them. No one dare to put the bleaching powder there because they believe that it is the abode of the guardian spirit. So because of that, you can enjoy the beauty, you can take the photograph, but no one is allowed to kill those beautiful fishes there. So this is because I continuously written on it, explain to the people, and people realize it. The new generation also want, but their philosophy is to build a temple. So I told them that building of the temple will going to create a lot of problems. So that is why we have to tell the people what is the ecological religion.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. So we have to go on sort of educating even the new generation about the traditional forms of religion, because I suppose otherwise they'll just take what they see across India, on TV, whatever. Okay, thank you.